All right, everyone, we're gonna go ahead and get started. First and foremost, thank you so much for coming. I want to say a special thank you to our students and our student panelists for their brave and courageous stories. Who's Your Neighbor was started as an avenue to bridge conversation when a lot of people were talking at each other. The goal was to get people to speak with one another. And I just want to say, take the opportunity to really, reflect tonight, breathe in everyone's empathy and courage. Grace made an excellent point earlier that a quote by Maya Angelou states that, your courage encourages others to be courage. So first and foremost, again, I want to say thank you for your willingness to share. After this, we're going to go into a brief discussion and reflection points. So we'd love to get some feedback from the audience. I'm going to go ahead and do a brief introduction for our students here. We have Elijah Weaver, who is a second-year student who is studying international politics, peace and conflict studies, and a secondary emphasis in Chinese studies. Jean Barrera is a health professions degree major who has a secondary emphasis in psychology with the goals of being a physical therapist. Samuel Feagley is studying history and IMA, who is also a senior. And Shameea Butler-Bonner is studying multimedia production and design. So I ask you again to take this moment to reflect. Please silence your phones, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to Elijah.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for taking the time out of your day to just listen to student experiences and just listen to our stories. So I really appreciate you all taking the time out of your day. I just wanted to start with Halatona Uha, which is a Choctaw phrase which just means hello everyone. So I really appreciate you all taking the time, and just to tell some things about myself. I am an international politics and peace studies major, as I was so brilliantly introduced by Secure. Thank you so much. And when I was approached with the idea of talking about what adaptation and transformation meant to me on an individual level, I really thought I resonated with that idea just because of my experience as a Native American student and just my general experience with reservation life and also life in the big city of Nashville and now college life. So each of these things mean different things to me on a cultural, on an individual, and on, it also just means something significant to me on my understanding of equity, diversity, and inclusion. So I just wanted to talk about what each of these locations mean to me, being Nashville, the Mowa Reservation where I partially lived, and my college experience. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen. So I just wanted to start off by basically talking about what Nashville meant to me. Those are baby pictures of me. I was 4 years old at the time. And growing up in Nashville was foundational to my understanding of diversity and equity. Also just foundational to my understanding of culture and people from different cultural backgrounds and what it means to foster an understanding of cultural education and cultural diversity. So Nashville is a very diverse city. It's very diverse. People from all over the world come to study music, just to visit, and just to live there. I think it's a great city to be in. And I had the privilege of going to a very diverse high school. My high school is predominantly POC and BIPOC students. Our student body was about 60% underrepresented students, which allowed for a lot of student groups and student organizations to form centering around cultural diversity and cultural education. We had the Indian Student Association, the Native American Student Association, the African American Student Association. We just had a bunch of different cultural groups that allowed for a better understanding of people from different backgrounds. And every year we would host annual events at my school called Day of Nations, where each person from different cultural backgrounds kind of represent where they're from and bring food. They can celebrate dance, music, and just kind of show other people what it means to grow up in their respective cultures, which was very educational for me because I'm only Native American. I got to learn a lot about other cultures on an international scale. So it was just very great for me. And also growing up in Nashville allowed for me to take part in Native American celebrations because it's very hard to organize Native American celebrations just because Native Americans don't really use the internet. We don't really actively post on internet forums about there's gonna be a powwow Saturday at 6 p.m. Be there. That's not a thing. We usually just it's usually by word of mouth. And being in a big city allowed for the word of mouth to spread much faster. And I know that Creek Nation would celebrate and organize a lot of powwows, especially along Hunter State Park, which was great because I got to learn about tribes different from my own. I am Choctaw, so I got to learn about Creek and Cherokee and a lot of other different tribes that are indigenous to the southeastern United States. So it's very, very great for me. And another thing, I wanted to end with was fry bread. I got to make a lot of different Native American dishes and food while I was in Nashville. It was very great for me because I just love food so much. I just love eating. So I got to take part in one of the biggest parts of my culture, which is the food. Fry bread and berry jams are very big, and being able to make those things and learn how to make those things and getting to make those things with other Native American students was very important to me in my sense of belonging and just my understanding of Native American culture in general, not just Choctaw culture, but all culture, Native American culture. And I guess now is learning about where I'm from. Where I'm actually from is the Moa Reservation. So the Moa Band and the Mississippi Band were the only two Native American groups able to escape relocation to Oklahoma. So basically, the Moa Band the Moa Reservation is now located in southern Alabama. That is not where Choctaw Nation is ancestral to. We are ancestral to northwestern Alabama, northeastern Mississippi, and western Tennessee. That's kind of like our central area of origin. But in response to relocation, the group of Choctaw that became my family fled southward to southern Alabama, where our reservation is now founded, because we were able to escape relocation. And since we were able to escape relocation, as you can imagine, the Moa Band is filled with a very rich culture, seen in its food, music, dance, and traditions. It was honestly great that we were able to escape relocation because we were not as heavily victims of assimilation as people that were relocated to Oklahoma. And it also meant that I had a direct tie to understanding where my sense of family is and like where my family can be traced back to, because a lot of Native Americans don't have that privilege. A lot of Native Americans can't pinpoint where their family comes from just because of the U.S. efforts of assimilation and their success in assimilating the United States, assimilating Native Americans to the United States. So I can actually trace back where I come from all the way to the beginning of time, really, which is really nice. A lot of Native Americans don't have that privilege, and I just wanted to tell you all that the Weaver family actually makes up about 1/3 of my tribe. My tribe is very small, so it's about 112 people. So yeah, it's a very small tribe, but it's also very familial and very personal to me because, I pretty much know everyone in the entire tribe, which is very nice. So after my experience in Nashville, after my experience in Alabama, I decided I would try and change my perspective by going to college in the Northeast because I had never left the South before. I thought it would bring me new perspective. I thought the colleges in the Northeastern United States were just better than the ones in the South. I don't know why. I just really wanted that kind of change in perspective. I also just really wanted to travel because, I never really left my ancestral area before. So I decided to go to Northeastern United States, and I was met with a lot of different ideas and perspectives, and a lot of things I didn't really anticipate. I think going to the Northeastern United States was probably the most different experience. I've never really experienced anything like this before. I had never really existed in a predominantly white space. I had never really gone to a predominantly white school. This is my first time really experiencing what it means to be in a predominantly white space. And for me, I was not expecting the amount of bigotry or discrimination or words that were thrown at me or just Native Americans in general. And I didn't really think that they would affect my GPA, my attendance in classes, my attendance at club events, and just taking part. I didn't really think it would hinder my ability to take part in social life at Juniata College, but it did. It greatly affected my ability to succeed in every facet of Juniata College. And yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, these impact posts kind of just exemplify how people just speak over Indigenous students and speak over Native Americans in general. And these were all posts from Indigenous Peoples Day, which is a national day of celebration for Indigenous people in the country. And I think all these posts were in response to the land acknowledgement posters and land acknowledgement plaques that were being put around campus. And it was just pretty disgusting that people think that they have the privilege to call these signs obnoxious or annoying, especially when they aren't a Native or an Indigenous student. I don't think that they understood that they don't get to decide what is and isn't a form of activism, especially when they aren't part of that marginalized group or underrepresented group. So they were just really speaking over Native American students. And I think that they were just being ignorant, flat out, which was really hurtful for me because I had never really experienced anything like that. But I did learn from the experience, I think. I definitely think I did learn from the experience, and I'm obviously still here, even though I did fill out a transfer application last year. I was very, very tempted to go to Tulane University for Native American Studies, but I ended up not submitting my application just because I talked with members of administration, I talked with members of faculty, and I kind of just pushed through the mental and emotional damage that I faced my first year at Juniata College, and especially, I mean, those UCAT posts were from this month. They were from 3 weeks ago. So that's just to show you that these issues are very, very tangible, and they do exist on campus, and they do persist on campus. But I don't say all this to be like, Juniata College is horrible, and no one should go here. I say this just because I think that Juniata College as a campus community, as an institution, can do better to bring change and social change, and more equity, especially representation to Native American students. I am one of 4 Native American students on campus that self-identify as Native American. And even though I'm one of those 4, it still means a lot to be represented. It still means a lot to just be told I exist as an underrepresented group on campus, and just acknowledging those struggles. Land acknowledgement goes so much deeper than just saying, I'm on Choctaw land, I'm on Cherokee land, I'm on Oneida land. It's a contractual agreement to the solidarity to Native American groups and their struggles on an institutional level and also on a national level. It's understanding of all the struggles we face financially and educationally as a result of colonization and imperialism, and the history of colonialism and imperialism in Native American history, and how that has affected Native American groups in the country. And and our success in college, Native American graduation rates are lowest in the country, which is for a very historical reason. And I don't believe that it's too late for Juniata College to change. I don't think that's too late for Native American voices to be uplifted on campus, and I don't think that it's too late to bring institutional change. I think that a scholarship program for Native American students would be great. I think that even more flyers would be great, educating students about Native American struggles and Native American culture. I think that my motive for telling the story and my motive for agreeing with Grace to tell my story is because as a Native American student, as one of the few Native American students, it shows me my discontent goes so much further than just one Native American student. It goes as far as encouraging other Native American students to come to campus and encouraging more of a community to form for Native American students to form. So I think that Juniata College can do better in the support of Native American students. And I, again, just want to thank the faculty and administration that supported me during my first year and during this semester, because it's been still really hard for me as a Native American student. I've had to still deal with a bunch of comments made towards me on a personal level. I've had to make bias reports, I've had to do all that. And also just an anonymous level towards Native American students in general. I've had to deal with a lot of that. And I definitely wouldn't have made it through my first year, and I definitely wouldn't still consider transferring if not for the support of administration, such as Grace Barlow, Crystal Sullivan, Aaron Pascal, Provost Bowen. I definitely would not have made it through without them. I would already be gone. So I just wanted to end with this final message for all of you. I definitely think that it's important to look back while still looking forward. Definitely my first year, I struggled with reflecting too much on everything that's happened to me and everything negative that's happened to me on campus. And as a result, I lost sight of all of my career goals, all of my educational goals. My goals of just attending class, and I lost sight of that because of everything that's happened to me that's been negative, and losing, just spiraling into depression. And I don't think it necessarily has to be like that. I still think that I can reflect on these negative experiences as something that's very valid and very real and very tangible, but at the same time, it doesn't have to affect me negatively. So I hope that my story shows you that all of these issues continue to persist on campus, and they're very real on campus, and that I will continue to use these experiences to advocate for the collective growth of our community, because again, I really do believe that Juniata College can do better, and I do see it doing better in the future, especially if it decides to listen to Native American students on campus. Even though I am one of the few, I still very much believe that what I see as very real change to address Native American struggles is a very reflective approach to all Native American struggles. So the lesson I want to leave for other represented students is that I hope that we can all learn to balance reflection and healing, because I definitely get too caught on the past and everything that's happened to me negatively, and it doesn't have to be that way. I definitely think that we can still move forward while still looking back. And for non-marginalized students, I hope that we can collectively gain a better understanding of what it means to be a true ally, and especially in regards to being a true Native American ally. So that means not speaking over Native Americans and how they feel about certain Native American issues. I think that's a very basic first step is not speaking over Native Americans, and just knowing when your words are harmful and understanding the impact of the words you say. So, which just means thank you all so much for listening, and may the Choctaw language live forever.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Barrera, and I just want to thank you all for being here today and for choosing to listen to my story. And so my story is a triumph story about perseverance, about how we struggle for the people we love, and about how we show the world that we are more capable than dealing with the adversities that are thrown at us. So I said my name was Barrera. That was sort of not the full truth. My whole name is Juniata, which is the name that my parents gave me when I was born. But I had the tendency all my life to shorten that to Barrera for the convenience of others. But today, I want you all to know that my name is Juniata. And so I'm from Falls Church, Virginia, and my parents are from Juniata, Guatemala, which is that red part in the map. And my parents moved to the US so that they could live a better life for themselves and for their children. So there you can see on the top right of your screen is my family, both my parents and my older sisters, Cindy, Nancy, and Diana. And then that little stud at the bottom is me. So my parents were uneducated. My dad was a bartender for a few years and a construction worker for several years, and my mom has been a lifelong maid. And they made it their goal to have their children to live a better life than they did. So my dad told me the story of how he came here to the US, about how he traveled from that southern part of Guatemala to Mexico in a packed truck, filled with mothers, fathers, even children, and traveled all the way to Mexico, where he then had to go from Mexico to Florida on a boat where they weren't giving any food or any water. But once he finally made it to Florida, he met up with his cousin who gave him a loan of $5,000 and drove him up to Virginia to where he finally built and started his life. And that last part there is a quote that my mom had told me ever since I was a child, but I still remember to this day. She said, "I don't want you to be the one cleaning the desk. I want you to be the one behind the desk." And my parents persevered throughout their whole life here in the US. So I want to persevere too. And one way for me to do that is to go to college. Well, to be fair, my parents didn't really give me an option. So I just decided to go with it. But yeah, in order to do that, they enrolled me in a program called AVID. I don't know if some of you guys are familiar with the program. It's all about college readiness, how to write notes, how to be organized, time manage. And it really exposed me to different kinds of colleges, big and small, rural and urban, public, private, and all of that. And in high school, I was, the perfect student. Had a high GPA. I was involved in many different clubs. You guys are actually looking at the former president of chess club in my high school.
Whoa!
So, and I was working too. I worked in the movie theater and I worked in Chipotle. So I could wrap a mean burrito if you guys need me to. So, and I didn't do this, just for myself. I did this for my parents. I wanted them to be proud of me. I wanted them to say, "Yep, that's my son. He did this." And I want to persevere because I see them struggle every day, whether it's physical or mental, I see it. Whether they want me to or not, whether they try to hide it, I still see it. Whether it's the burdens of, heavy lifting, construction, or whether it's the constant movement when it's being made, or even when they struggle to even know how to even pay for my college tuition here, or even if it comes to trying to figure out how to pay their bills, I see them struggle. But I want to persevere for them. And right now is the point of the story where, it's looking pretty good, right? Wasn't always that easy. So I heard of Juniata when it was my senior year of high school, And, I always heard great things about it, how it was a college that changed lives, how I had a great health professions program, and I always heard great things from my friends. So I decided to visit, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the small campus. I loved the fact that it had a small community so I could, get well with my professors. And I loved how kind, the tour was. So it kind of just felt like a home to where it felt like Juniata was my #1 choice of colleges out of the 10 that I had applied. So I applied regular decision, January 15th, and I played the waiting game. 1 week after I submitted, no response. Now it came to February, no response. Now it came to March. Now I was starting to get worried because all my friends were either getting accepted or rejected, and I was thinking, what about me? And I was so worried that I had to go to my college counselor and some of my teachers saying, why? Why haven't I heard anything? But, and they told me not to worry, don't stress about it, Junior, I get hundreds of applications. It'll be your time, you'll be fine. Except when I got rejected. And I was heartbroken. Because your #1 school had told you that they didn't want you. And not only that, but your parents couldn't afford the other financial aid packages that you were accepted to. And what hurt me the most was the fact that I knew that I wasn't making my parents proud. I wasn't going to be at college, and I felt like a failure. April 19th, 2019, I fractured 3 metatarsals, 3 bones in my foot. And you can sort of tell in the 3 bones in the middle of my foot. And then that top right picture, I had no recollection of. But apparently, I was surrounded by my coach and my dad and my teammates. And I was speaking with a mouth full of blood, covered in my white jersey. I was saying, what day is it? What day is it? What is it today? And I blacked out. I woke up in the ambulance with my dad saying, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Like, yeah, you're my dad. What's going on? I blacked out again, only to wake up in a hospital where they're taking x-rays of my foot, saying that, I fractured 3 of my bones, and I was devastated. Not only that, because if you guys are familiar with that date, the high school graduation was, for me, the first week of June, so it was looking very unlikely for me to walk the stage to get my diploma. And my parents were devastated because they wanted to see their only son walk the stage to get the diploma. And it was looking unlikely for that to happen. I lost hope. This is officially the lowest point in my life. But my teachers didn't lose hope. So that teacher there at the bottom right of your screen is a good friend of mine. Or I wouldn't say friend, he's more a family. Because he knew all my sisters, and he knew me very well. And he helped all my sisters, so he decided to help me. His name is Eric Walsh, and he is the teacher who really encouraged me to appeal Juniata's decision. He's the one who told me about the appeal process, how it included more letter of recommendations, how it included me to increase my grades and try more essays, but I thought, what's the point? They already said no the first time, they could say no again. I don't want to go through the whole thing again just for them to say no. But I wanted to persevere. I wanted to persevere for my parents and for myself. So I decided to go through it. I increased my grades, I got a letter of recommendation from a former alumni, and then I also wrote an essay, specifically an essay about why I deserve to be here at Juniata. So I did that, and I played the waiting game again. Obviously, it worked out this time. So, and not only that, but I had one last checkup a week before the walk before graduation. And, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I had a fake intimidated. They asked me to walk in a straight line, when they took off my boot and they took off my cast. I'm not gonna tell you, I was in excruciating pain, because obviously 1 month wasn't enough just to heal those bones. But I had to make sure that I walked that stage for my parents, to see their only son walk the stage. So you can sort of see there, in the bottom of the screen is where I had my boot, and I was there with my friend. And then that's me with my diploma with my 2 parents for graduation. So, what's next? Well, I'm a current senior, on track to graduate in May, and I'm hoping after graduation that, I get to shadow at home. And I'm currently shadowing at Barrera Physical Therapy. So, I want to do all of this. Ultimately, to make my parents proud. But I want that little kid up there to know that his dreams are coming true. And to end off, sort of, is that I want to bring back to what my mom had said at the beginning. Yo no quiero tú para limpiar la mesa. I don't want you to clean the desk. Yo quiero tú para ser detrás de la mesa. I want you to be behind the desk. But I want to add on this last part. But also respect the person that cleans your desk. But also, pero también para respetar los gentes que limpian sus mesas. So I told all y'all, how I got rejected, how I broke my foot, and how I'm here now. But I just want to say that everyone perseveres. Everyone has to go through some sort of adversity to be at the point where they are today. And some of us have failed. Ultimately, it's important to know that, it's not discouraging to share your failures, but it's about leaning into the discomfort of our past to really find the growth and beauty of our future. Thank you.
I'm Sam, and I'm just going to be reading something that I wrote about how hope has interacted with my journey. Against all odds, stars shine, grass grows, and people adapt. If they can do all those things, then hope is always present. Hope can remain hidden only to be found when it's needed most. Hope can be found all around us if we just take the time to look. Although this story could be interpreted as being absent of hope, instead I would like it to be interpreted as a sign that hope is everywhere. I was a fairly ordinary kid. I played sports, attended school, and generally enjoyed the experience. I always felt pride in my family's military service and looked forward to following in their footsteps. When I was about to graduate high school, I began making preparations, talking to recruiters, and eventually deciding I would join the Navy. However, before I was officially eligible to join, I had to go through a medical exam. Up until that point, I had been told that there was nothing wrong that could affect my eligibility. I ended up failing the balance portion of the exam. They gave me 6 months to improve it, so I got to work. I was constantly working on improving my balance. After about 4 months of work, nothing had improved, and I began to search for answers elsewhere, leading me to a physical therapist who said he knew what the problem was. He said that after a few sessions with him, my balance would be 100%. It didn't work. He then said it must be neurological and that there was nothing that he could do. At that point, all the hope I could see was in the military, and that hope was taken away, restored, and taken away again. After learning that my dream to continue my family's tradition would be impossible, I was left feeling hopeless. But the people around me filled me with hope and reminded me that even though I couldn't feel any, it was always around. I began looking for a new source of hope in my past and in the people close to me. My search brought me to my old plumbing certificate that I had earned in high school. It reminded me of the enjoyment I got from that work, and the people around me fully supported that feeling. I applied to Penn College and began to imagine a new future I could look forward to. The first 2 semesters went fantastically. There were still some issues with balance, but nothing too major. During the third semester, things started to change. I began having trouble walking to class and even doing my work. I eventually had to take a medical hiatus from school. During that time, I had a number of tests done. The results that I received were confusing, but they made it clear that plumbing would no longer be in my future. What I was told was that whatever was wrong couldn't be changed and that it would only get worse with time. I lost hope for a time, but luckily the hope I had in the people around me never went away. Because of the hope that other people gave me, I was able to come to Juniata. The first few semesters at Juniata were still filled with a search for hope, but I was now in a hopeful environment that was constantly transforming and adapting to give people hope. Thanks to my new environment, I was able to find hope in simple things. My life transformed during that time in multiple ways, but I resisted those transformations, so I saw no hope. As long as the universe has the ability to change, there will always be hope. So remember, if you ever feel absent of hope, all you have to do is take the time to look for something.
Hi everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I know that students have a lot of work to do, but still taking an hour out of your day means a lot to all of us up here on this panel. So today I'll be telling a story about how all of my influences in my life brought me to this exact moment in time. So without further ado, let's dive in. So like Zakira said, my name is Shameea Butler-Bonner, but some people in this room know me as Mia. I'm a senior and my POV is multimedia production and design, and I'm graduating in December. So I decided to do this as one last college speech. I was born and raised in West Philadelphia with my mom, my stepdad, my grandma, and my siblings. I have an older brother, a twin sister, Shameea. You guys know Shameea, right? Yeah. My twin sister, Shameea, and my younger sister. In elementary school, I attended a program called PFL, and it was a summer program that allowed me and my sister to take summer classes while also participating in different summer activities like traveling to Washington, D.C., Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, amusement parks, anything you can think of for the summer. I'm proud to say that I learned how to do my laundry at the age of 11 because of this program. So, yeah, a little pro. But it was during the summertime, so little me didn't want to go to this program because, it's summer, I want to have fun, I don't want to take classes. But my mom shared with me all the benefits of going. She said that I get to go to college a bit earlier than my peers and meet many kids from Eastern Pennsylvania and be ahead of everyone in my class. The last thing she told me was that I needed to protect my twin sister as the older twin. And ever since then, I made it my lifetime job to protect Shameea at all costs. PFL didn't last long. I wish it did, to the point where I got into high school. But that wasn't the case. It was the most toughest time of my life, and I want to forget it. But it's part of me, so we can't. I went to Parkway West High School, and it was the only high school I was accepted to because I had low test scores at a C average by the time I graduated 8th grade. Bummer, I know. And it was also a special admissions school, so that means I had to take a test to see if I was smart to get into that school. And I did. I got accepted. If I didn't get accepted to Parkway West, I would have to go to my neighborhood school, and every parent dreads their child going to their neighborhood high school. At the end of freshman year of high school, I had a 0.6 GPA, and I only passed one class. Isn't that crazy? The kids I surrounded myself with were the ones who disrespected the teacher, who didn't do work, and skipped school. I participated in all of that. And because of that, I had to play catch up for the next 3 years of high school. And having those negative influences around me brought a lot of consequences. But I made it. I graduated high school, but I only graduated with 1.9 GPA. And I got rejected from all of the universities I wanted to attend, and of course Juniata rejected me. So I decided to go to Manor College because it was the only school that accepted me, and I truly did not want to go to CCP. I was a commuter student, and the commute was very long. I took one bus, a train, the subway, and another bus. And if I had an 8 a.m., that means I had to be out of the house by 6 a.m. So that means I had to be awake by at least 4:30 a.m. in the morning. And I can say that was also another consequence. It was hard, and I also had no room to complain because I chose to let those negative influences impact my life. So, 2 years at Manor College because it was a 2-year university and I had to look for another school to apply to. I applied to Juniata again to see if they would take me in, and I also applied to Temple University and Millersville University, and I ended up getting accepted to all three, and it was time for me to make a decision. So, my mom told me I should go to Temple because she said it would be more cheaper and I would be closer to home. And I was going to accept the offer for Temple, but I decided that I wanted to go to Juniata, and I was 20 at the time, and I didn't want my mom making decisions, like impacting my decisions. Like, come on, who wants their mom impacting their decisions at 20? Let's be honest. So I decided to attend Juniata College for the remainder of my college life. And attending JC was when I finally started to find my positive influences besides my family. So I'm just gonna name a few, if that's all right with you guys. You guys know Ryan Gibney, right? Yeah. So she's my advisor, and I first went into her office knowing that I wanted to work with a camera. I wasn't sure if I wanted to individualize my POE because I wanted to graduate on time. Then she shared with me the benefits of individualizing, and then I pondered a bit more. And then later on, I went to her office and said, so Ryan, I want to individualize my POE. So I did that, and the rest is history. I didn't get a chance to graduate on time, but I don't regret individualizing my POE. The next person is Katie Hoffman. You guys know Katie? Yes. She wasn't just a professor to me. She felt like a mentor that I always wanted growing up besides my mom. She was soft-spoken, and she's an amazing professor. And although I've only known her for a short time, she taught me that taking a break isn't selfish, but it's necessary to function. And whenever I told her I didn't want to go to class, she would lay out the consequences of not going. And I can surely say that she's the reason that I make it to most of my classes. Dawn Shalava, you guys know Dawn? Anyone know Melissa Lukowski? Yes? All right, then. So, when I met Dawn, I told her that I was going through a tough time here at Juniata, and she recommended the counseling center, and she said I should give it a try. And this is when I met Melissa Lukowski, and Melissa was the one who saw my transformation like up close and personal. I was getting to a point in my life where I was a danger to myself, so Melissa mentioned SSRIs. You guys know what those are, right? Yeah. So, and I was on the fence about it because it meant that I needed medicine to help keep me stable. Even after she told me about all the benefits, I still said no. She let me think about it, and I thought about how my life would be a lot easier if I were on SSRIs. And my life was literally on the line, so I had to choose fast. So fortunately, I went to our next session and said I'll try them. And I can say my life has been better since I started SSRIs. So this last person is not a professor, it is a student. It's my friend Lily Harding. And they have influenced me in lots of ways. Me and Lily sort of have the same POV, and she probably loves her POV more than I do. And seeing her so dedicated to her work influences me to do the same. And I went through a lot of friends before I met Lily, and I love Lily a lot. They also asked me if I did my work for the week, so I make it a habit to finish all of my work before they ask. There are a lot more people I could name, but for the sake of time, I can't name them all. So I know you guys are wondering, like, why are you listening to this, and why am I sharing this, and why does it matter? And it's all because we're all mosaics of everyone we've ever met. A mosaic is a pattern of small, regular, or irregular pieces of colored glass or stone. And every piece of small glass represents the person who influenced you positively in your life and negatively. And when you look closer into every single person, you can see the people who influence them. So I leave you with this. Who makes up your mosaic? Thank you.
Can I get one more round of applause for our amazing speakers? First and foremost, I want to say again, thank you for your bravery and your courage. I've been working with them all week on their presentations, and we've been through many crying sessions and a lot of reflection. And I truly am amazed by the courage and the bravery of your stories. It takes a lot of guts to get up here and bare your soul to everyone. And the goal and the theme of this Who's Your Neighbor is transformation and adaptation, right? And I think as we're looking at inclusion and equity and truly building an equity-minded culture, it's about taking the time to stop and listen and be open-minded and inquire into one another's stories. I think oftentimes a lot of divisiveness and a lot of ignorance or misunderstandings comes from not acknowledging the fact that we're all going through similar things. We're all going through adversity. We're all going through road bumps. And it's about coming together in solidarity and acknowledging the fact that there are moments for empathy and there are moments for kindness. I want to use this moment as an opportunity to reflect from the audience and get some comments. But we had some amazing questions from the earlier session, so I'm going to start with the first question from earlier. What would be one thing or two things that you tell your freshman self? Or incoming freshmen in general?
Yeah, it's that. Does it work? Yeah. Okay, so so it's a little bit different for me because I'm only a second year student. The first semester of my second year, so it's a little too early to be saying my freshman self because I already know him. So it's just, if I were to tell anything to incoming freshmen, it definitely depends on the context of whether or not they're an underrepresented student or a non-marginalized student. So for other underrepresented students, I definitely think that you need to find the support networks that exist for BIPOC students on campus. There really isn't much like support networks that exist on an institutional level or in the institutional system, but there are definitely friend groups you can make and definitely people that can get you connected with like counseling and stuff like that that can help you find your sense of belonging, because I really struggled with that my first year. And for non-marginalized students, I definitely think that educating yourself is the most important thing you can do. You need to know like what isn't okay to say. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Something I would tell a freshman is kind of what I said in my presentation. Just persevere. Even going through all of that, what I mentioned before, even as a freshman, taking my first biology course, right? I thought I was the smartest person in the class, with my high GPA. Only to get a D in the class. So, but again, I persevered. I decided to retake that class again because I wasn't going to take it, and I ended up with an A-. So, yeah. So, yeah, please persevere.
I guess I would probably tell a freshman just not to be afraid to ask for help, because most of the faculty here at Juniata would help you if they could. And the first year I was here, I didn't want to ask for help, and it caused problems.
Being last in the line really sucks because they take all of your answers. But literally, I was going to say everything they said, and I want to push the idea of finding a mentor here on campus, whether it's an upperclassman, a faculty member, or literally just someone, a townie or whatever. But that's literally like a friend group and a mentor is all you need.
Any other reflections, I want to, as you're maybe pondering some reflections, I want to say personal thank you to everyone here in the audience, right? I saw some admin in here earlier, I see some family members, I see faculty, and I think it truly shows the strength and the resilience of our community. I think sometimes these conversations are underrated. People don't realize the effect and the impact of truly coming together in solidarity and having moments for empathy and reflection and kindness. And as Shameea said, know that every interaction that you have with someone on this campus and off this campus is truly changing their trajectory forever. So, I implore you to choose kindness. I implore you to, choose empathy. And I also, implore you to stay curious, right? I think oftentimes we get bogged down in thinking that we can't ask questions, but I encourage you to ask questions of your fellow students, of your fellow peers, and take this moment of reflection outside of this room, right? Take what you've learned tonight, take the different aha moments that you've had, and lean into those curiosities and don't let that fire burn out with some of them that you have. All right, thank you so much for coming out. The Office of EDI truly appreciates you. Grace Falla could not be here tonight. She is our director of EDI, and she, I'm sure, is sending lots of love and blessings and all the positive things that she sent via text message before this event. So one more round of applause for our panelists, and we will definitely be having more of these events next semester. So have a great evening and get some good rest. Thank you.